And a little bit late to the draw. Thanks, guys, for joining us. This is a special Free-for-All Friday show, which is kind of weird because it's actually Sunday, right? Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday here in America. If you guys are watching this video, you're probably not going to be watching the Super Bowl, which I highly recommend you don't do to join in all of that craziness. So I hope you guys are really enjoying yourselves this weekend. And I just had a lot to share about, a lot of things going on in my life and a lot of things I wanted to discuss. So I figured I'd do a free-for-all Friday show. Actually, I was here on a Sunday doing a live Q&A with our doctor, Dr. John Bergman, for our Extreme Health Academy. So I figured while I'm here, why not share some ideas and some things that have been going on in our life and things that are going on with the show for Extreme Health Radio. So this is a lot of fun. It's kind of a rainy Sunday afternoon here. And I figured, you know, Kate's getting a massage. She's finally getting a massage. So we have somebody watching the kids. And I figured why not, you know, hang out with you guys for a little bit. So I had some things I wanted to share with you, some show recaps. Wanted to talk about some of the things going on with our shows. I wanted to talk to you about measles and cancer. Is there a connection? I wanted to share with you some information about smartphones, a question about mattresses. One of you guys wrote in asking about mattresses, and some interesting ideas too with MRI contrasts. So if you guys have ever had an MRI, which I have, we'll talk about that. Also, some interesting tidbits about macaroni, mac and cheese. So I wanted to share this with you. And also this weird thing going on. Have you guys heard about smart diapers? Smart diapers. Can you believe it? So I want to share with you guys some things I found out recently about smart diapers. And then also the effects of blue light on retinal damage. A lot of cool stuff to talk about on today's show. So let me hop on over to the chat room and see if you guys are chit-chatting away here. There's a few people that are just getting on now. It's kind of an odd time for us to do a free-for-all Friday show, considering the fact that it's a weekend. It's not planned, and there's a Super Bowl going on. But it's something that I wanted to do. A lot of cool things going on, and figured I want to share some ideas with you as well. And for those that are chatting, we recently turned on this thing called Super Chat. So below the button, there's a little picture of a dollar sign. So if you want to donate anything during the show, you can do that. So it's kind of cool. Kind of allows us to earn a little bit of these Federal Reserve notes as we're doing a show. But so I wanted to share with you some ideas or just some things going on with the show with regards to our shows recently. So if you haven't caught any of our recent episodes, let me just share with you some of the things that have been going on. Lots of cool stuff. So you guys are probably familiar with the fact that we do shows every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So we recently had a guy by the name of Neil Miller on the show, and we talked about vaccines and what they do to the body. And so we talked about a lot of different things with regards to vaccines and raising children without vaccines and some really interesting information. So if you haven't heard that show yet with Neil Miller, make sure to check that show out. Diving into a lot of really cool stuff here on Extreme Health Radio, and it's really fun to do so and to provide information that I think is going to help you guys a lot and help me and myself a lot as well. He wrote a number of different books about vaccines, and the name of the title of the show is Are Vaccines Actually Healthy? And we kind of dispel that myth. But it's funny when you got guys like him on the show, it's really fascinating because these kind of guys are really like passionate, right? So it's really hard to get a word in edgewise, but you know, these kind of people are really there to help as many people as possible. And so it was cool to have him on the show. And then before that, this past week, we have Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe. He was a cool guy. We talked about spiritual healing. He's a Sufi master. I'm not sure exactly what that is, Sufi master, but we had him on the show. We talked about the connection between spirituality and disease. And you'd be surprised, you know, whenever you find someone that has a catastrophic illness going on in their body, there's always a corresponding emotional, spiritual trauma that's been going on in their life. And it's really fascinating looking at this connection. You know, a lot of times in our scientific-based world, we're thinking about the physical. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and it was like the 10 pillars to health or something like that. And every one of the things that were mentioned on that podcast were physical things, like what you can do for your digestion, what you can do for your heart health, your cardiovascular health, what you can do for fitness and training and your sleep. And everything that was mentioned on that show was things that happen and occur in the physical world. But the driver of what's going on in these invisible processes, which cause our cells to mutate and not replicate properly, shortening the telomeres and producing cells that are immature cells, cells that become cancerous. Cancer cells are just cells that are immature, that haven't fully understood, they're stem cells that haven't fully understood the process of growing up and becoming the type of cell of the tissue that they reside in. So then they start, starting this cancerous process. And so anytime you see an issue with cancer or with any sort of catastrophic health concern, challenge that people are dealing with, there's always a corresponding emotional, spiritual aspect to it. And it's an interesting balance because on the one side, this guy here, Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe, was a medical doctor, or still is a medical doctor, but you can't throw all your eggs in one basket, in my opinion, because you can't just not do anything on the physical side and expect there to be just radical transformations by doing purely emotional, spiritual work. I think you can, because that's the core, but I really think that it takes more than that. It takes every aspect of your health. So it's like the law of attraction, right? A lot of people are talking about just name it and claim it and feel it and all this kind of stuff. And it presupposes that you're not going to take any action. And by sitting on your couch and just feeling good feelings about, some mansion you want to live in, it's not going to do anything, right? You have to actually put inspiration into action and, have all aspects of it covered. And so, you can't also focus too much on the physical and just ignore the spiritual either, because you're ignoring the very root cause of what's causing an invisible process to occur in your body. Because like cholesterol, like high blood pressure, like all these numbers that we try to sort of fix and alter and change and manipulate, based on arbitrary standards that have been set up by pharmaceutical companies, all of these sort of areas of the body can be easily manipulated, right? And so by ignoring the spiritual, you're ignoring what causes that invisible process to occur. And so we talked about that. It was a really good show with Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe. And then prior to that, we had Dr. Ron Hunninghake on the show, and he's from the Reardon Clinic. I think they're based out of Kansas or Kentucky or something. But we talked about high-dose vitamin C and the work that they're doing with vitamin C and cancer specifically. And we talked about something that I thought was really interesting and something I'd never heard of before. And they're doing a unique thing with vitamin C. So they've done a series of studies on vitamin C and shown that there's a benefit to doing a continuous flow of vitamin C. So typically, whenever you talk about IV vitamin C, you're talking about like someone going in and sitting down and getting an IV bag of maybe 15,000 grams or is that right? 15 grams, 15,000 milligrams of vitamin C, or 20 grams, something like that. And so, or maybe even higher too. At the Reardon Clinic, they do, I think, up to 200 grams, which would be 200,000 milligrams, something like that. But so you have this like influx of vitamin C into the body, but the issue with that is that it subsides over time, and then after a few hours, your body's going back down to normal levels of vitamin C. And so what he's talking about is what they kind of do in the medical world with chemotherapy and things like that. They'll inject a port into someone, and they'll have a continuous flow. And so he's taking that idea, doing some studies pretty soon with cancer patients and things like that, using a continuous flow. So the idea would be like do an influx of vitamin C on, say, like a Monday, maybe 15 grams or something, 20 grams. And then for 3 days when they're not there getting that vitamin C, they're getting like a half that dosage continuously all throughout the day and through the evening. And then coming back, say, on Wednesday or Thursday and getting another infusion and keeping that flow going and seeing how cancer cells respond to that. So I thought that was really interesting thing that Dr. Hunninghake is doing at the Reardon Clinic. So if you guys know of anybody with whose body has some extra cells in there, you might want to have them look at Dr. Ron Hunninghake. Gosh, a lot of shows that have been happening lately. Allison Hwish, I think is how you say her name. We talked about her story with brain cancer, and she was able to dissolve a brain tumor using a multitude of different things. But the primary thing she used was frankincense essential oil, which I thought is interesting because frankincense is one of the oils that is used or talked about, at least in the Old Testament, right? So that was an interesting show, and she talked about the different methods and ways that she is using frankincense oil, or has used it for her brain, extra cells in her brain. It's in her brain stem. I think the cancer was actually in her brain stem, so at the base of her head, where the brain meets the spine there, and so she shared her story about that. So if you know of anybody who's dealing with some extra cells in the brain, make sure to have them listen to that show. It's on our YouTube channel now. It's not out yet as a podcast, but it will be soon. And then a lot of cool shows. Gosh, it's been a while since you and I have hung out. I feel like it's been like weeks that we've done a Free For All Friday show. So we had recently Dr. William Cowden on the show, and we talked about brain health. And he was an interesting guy, really, really fascinating guy, Dr. Cowden. And he talked about EMFs in the brain and how the calcium ion channels open up and breaking down the blood-brain barrier, allowing toxins and chemicals, parasites, things like that are free-floating in our bloodstream to enter the brain as a result of EMF. And so, gosh, talk about a fascinating guy. Man, that was a really good show. Tried to crack a smile out of him. He wasn't, maybe he was having a little stressful morning, but tried to crack a smile a couple times, but he was he was a serious guy, but I liked that guy a lot. He was cool. Then we had Mark Gober on the show, and we talked about a really interesting concept. Where does consciousness come from? Where does it come from? So that was a fascinating show. You know, do thoughts and ideas and personality, do they live inside of our body, or do they live in like a quantum field that we sort of download? We use our brain as like an antenna to receive signals in the form of inspiration, motivation, ideas, things like that. And is it possible to open up your consciousness to be able to download these things? You know, really fascinating. I feel like it's really cool with the show that we do. I'm exposed to so many interesting people with unique ideas, and it's a lot of fun just talking to these people, you know. So let me pop on over to the chat room, see if you guys are chit-chatting away here. A lot of cool people. Ray says, hey, Justin, this is a surprise. Definitely a better alternative to the mind control Super Bowl. That's true, right? I figured, you know, why not? I think the Super Bowl, it's about 2:15 p.m. here in California, and I think the Super Bowl starts at 3 p.m., and I've never been a fan of that myself. I don't even watch it, don't follow it, don't even know who's playing in it. Yeah, not a big fan of the old Super Bowl. Talk about mind control. So if you guys have any questions in the chat room, let me know, and I'd be love to sort of hang out with you guys and answer any questions that you guys might have for me about people we've talked to, maybe your health concerns, maybe some things you're working on the spiritual, emotional level, maybe some things that you're working on the physical level, stuff like that. And so yeah, a lot of cool things going on with our show. Before that, we had Dr. Brian Mull. We talked with him about blood sugar, your pancreas, type 1 and type 2 diabetes. That was a cool show. If you know of anybody whose body has a sluggish pancreas and might have type 1 diabetes, have them listen to that show. We shared some ideas that I think can really help a lot of people. And then, you know, it's interesting with diabetes. A lot of people are focusing on like the pancreas, you know, blood sugar issues, things like that. But, you know, a lot of other people are saying it's not blood sugar. It's more polyunsaturated fatty acids in the body. I don't know. We're just kind of looking into all the different research, and, you know, because whenever you have people with elevated blood sugars, most likely they're eating a diet very high in polyunsaturated fatty acids. So you can't really say that it's the sugar itself that someone's consuming. You know, if someone's eating a ton of those types of fatty acids, they call them PUFAs. You know, other people are saying, like Dr. Ray Peat, Adam Bergstrom, these people are saying that it's the sugar interacting with the polyunsaturated fatty acids, creating the pancreas to not really work correctly. So we talked a lot about pancreas health, blood sugar, stuff like that. That was cool. And then we had Mr. Bob Greska on the show. He was cool. We talked about carbon-60 and the research that they've been doing with mice, increasing their lifespan by almost 100%. So pretty fascinating, right? Like, would you want to live, let's see, what's the lifespan now? Lifespan now of a human is about 75 years, I'd say. Would you want to live till you're 160? But the thing is like, if you could live to your 160, would you do it? If you were in a bad state, like let's say the average person who's like 85 years old can barely walk, trouble with their balance, their kind of brain is gone, you probably wouldn't want to live that long, right? I mean, that doesn't sound like fun to me. But if you had the body of like a 50-year-old and you're, 120, would you want to live that long? And that's interesting because that kind of gives you a lot of time, right? It kind of makes you start thinking, like, is it possible for us to do this kind of stuff? And so we talked about C60 and its potential for a longevity thing. Now, as with everything, there are naysayers and people that say the opposite, right? So there's people like Tony Pantalleresco, who says, he talks a lot about, he's been on the show, by the way, really great guy. He was on the show a couple years ago, and he talks a lot about nanoparticles. And he was saying that C60, has nanoparticles in it, and it's bad for your health, and don't believe the hype and all this stuff. While other people say just the opposite. And the evidence seems to suggest that it's not going to have an issue with nanoparticles. Now, that said, I don't know, because in order for someone to actually know these things, you would have to test every person in real time and test 100% of the population. Otherwise, you're making conjectures. It's a theory, right? You don't know what's going on in every body under every stressful circumstance that's unique to them. So to say that one thing is bad or one thing is good is, I don't know, it's not being fair, right? Because, for example, like here's a good example of that. Wim Hof, right? They injected his body with live viruses. And he does like this breathing technique that I think is really interesting, right? And he says he's able to control his immune system. So he does this breathing technique. They inject his body completely scientifically, and it's been tested, third-party verified, all this stuff, with live viruses that are known to have specific side effects. They inject his body with these things, and nothing happened because he did his sort of breathing technique. He calls it the Wim Hof method, right? Specific forms of breathing. So it's like aliens, right? If one alien story is right, then the whole thing has to be questioned, right? Not saying there are aliens or not, but if one alien is right, if one story of alien is actually true, then you have to look at the whole theory, right? So the fact that Wim Hof was able to mitigate the effects of this live virus, you can't say that virus will do the same thing in 100% of people. So it's the same thing with food, with PUFAs, with sugar, all of this stuff is you can conjecture and make theories, and that's fine. But if you're not going to stand behind those theories and you're not going to say that across the board they're bad for everybody, then just don't pretend like it's absolute truth. It might be, but in order for you to fully know that, you would have to, like I said, test everybody, the 100% of the population in real time. If you get the 100% results that it does the same thing in every person, then you can come out and say that it's bad, right? So in any event, we talked about with Bob Greska this idea of C60, and is it the end-all be-all for longevity and living to your 100% of your lifespan increasing. So is that possible? So a lot of cool stuff happening on YouTube. And so if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Some shows coming up this week. This is kind of an impromptu episode. We have Zirin Kenny coming on Monday, and we'll talk with him about his story with Lyme disease. And I don't know if you guys know or watched the first episode we did with Zirin, but he's got a cool YouTube channel called Know How Things Work, and really diving deep into detoxification, electromagnetic fields, blue light, energy medicine, hyperbaric oxygen chambers. I mean, he's really covering the gamut of this thing called Lyme disease. And I've never known anyone with a worse case of Lyme disease in all the years of doing our show. And so this is going to be part 2. This really cool show we did with him on part 1. So that'll be a fun show to talk with him again tomorrow. Cool guy living in Colorado there. So that'll be fun. And on Wednesday, we have Dr. Gerald Smith. He's a cool guy. He's one of my favorite guests. He's a really open-minded dentist out there in Pennsylvania, but he does a lot of work with like Rife machines and energy medicine, and he's really an interesting guy. Dr. Gerald Smith. We've done, I think, 3 or 4 shows with him. And then on Friday, we have Frank Schallenberger. Will be discussing ozone therapy, oxygen metabolism, aging, and disease. Really nice guy. And, it's one of those things where if you don't understand the different types of practices there are out there and treatments there are out there, you're not going to know that they exist. And it's really important to educate yourself on what's out there. Like, understanding at the very least that there are things like hyperbaric oxygen chambers that can help someone in a multitude of ways. Hyperbaric oxygen is tremendous for so many different diseases and different things you can do in the body. And so really understanding that there are choices out there. The medical mainstream media wants to get you to think like we did in 1985 when there was like 3 networks. There's NBC, ABC, CBS, and that was it. When in actuality, right now, there's hundreds and hundreds of channels. So the same goes true with treatments. They want to make you think that drugs, pharmaceutical poisons, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, that's the only thing that's been studied, and double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. And these are the only things that work, peer-reviewed kind of stuff. Not realizing there's so many different aspects to healing. And it's fascinating because, one of the doctors that was on our show, and I want to get him on a monthly basis. I really resonate with his work. He's one of my favorite guests, and he's a good friend as well, Dr. Richard Massey. And he was saying recently that there's all kinds of natural substances that are now being taken away from us. And so what they do, it's interesting because they don't necessarily take them away. They just make it so that it's really hard to get, right? So, things triple or 10x the cost, but they leave it on the market, but you have to, instead of paying $10, you pay $100 or $1,000 for it. So, it's their way of just making it so things are harder to get. And as they continue to sort of close the grip on a lot of these natural substances, what they do is they just price everybody out and force people to get insurance. And then obviously insurance companies aren't going to be covering this stuff. So what they do is they say, oh, it's still available. You just have to be, Bill Gates type of money to be able to access it. And so as he's watched this happen, what he's done is he has just moved further and further away from everything physical and working on the emotional, spiritual, mental level, and getting even better results than he was when he was working with people just purely on the physical level. And so that to me is fascinating. If we can actually start working on multiple levels like this, like Dr. Klinghardt talks about, and working on many, many different levels in order to optimize our chances of healing. And so I think it's really important. And so ozone is one of those things where, are they going to make it illegal? I don't know. Are they going to make it so that people like Frank, Dr. Schallenberger, can't practice, or they have to pay a lot of money in order to do this? Or are they going to railroad guys like this? And you look up Frank Schallenberger, and the first websites that come up are like Quack Watch. It's crazy. So are they trying to do that? And I think that they are. It's just a matter of, are they going to admit it, right? So a lot of cool stuff. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. There's a little button down below. There's a little bell, and you can click on that, and you'll be notified whenever a show goes live. So Pink for Marie in YouTube says, wow, really, frankincense oil, amazing. Yeah, listen to that show with Allison Whish about frankincense oil. It's pretty amazing. And she said during the show that, if there's one essential oil to be on, it's frankincense oil. Eric Anthony says, have you tried hyperbaric oxygen? No, you know what? I haven't. And I feel a little bit remiss by that because there's a guy who lives near us who's been on the show, and he's known as the world's leading authority on hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and that is Dr. David Steenblock. He's like 5 miles from us. So what we're going to be doing is going over there and doing an office tour of his location there in San Clemente, California, which is like one city away from us. And we're going to do some treatments and feature his facility and stuff like that. So Ray Flores says, I followed, oh, by the way, Eric, as far as hyperbaric oxygen, did you catch the show that we did with Scott Scherr, I think his name is, Sherr, Dr. Scherr? He's up in San Francisco, and he's on our YouTube channel. I don't think he's on our podcast yet. His show is going to be coming up pretty soon on iTunes. But we did a show with him a while back, and we went into all the different aspects of hyperbaric oxygen. Because as you probably know, there's soft chambers that you can get for indoor use, for in-home use, kind of at home. And then there's the more medical grade chambers that you can use at a facility. And we talked about the differences and what it's good for and all that cool stuff. So Ray Flores says, I followed your advice given Wednesday and ordered from Blue Shield. Cool. Got 10% and 10% discounts for low radiation cap. Nice. Granite gray and portable device, which I will carry in my pocket. Dude, Ray, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad you did that. So for those who don't know, Blue Shield, let me make sure. If you go onto our store, Blue Shield's running a sale right now of their EMF protection scalar device products. And these are really cool products. We have their cube that we use in our room for the babies. And let me just make sure, because you can get a 20% discount. There's portable devices. In fact, I forgot to bring my portable device today. I'm so bummed about that. Okay, so they're offering... Oh, wow. Okay, it runs out today, February 3rd. You can save 20%. So if you use code EHR10, you get a 10% discount. And then there's the Save 10, which is available January 29th, 2019 to February 3rd, 2019. So, yeah, that's available, and this is really, really cool. Cool products. I love supporting good people like that. Good stuff. Nikki, great to have you here. This is awesome. A finite mind cannot comprehend an infinite mind. It must become it. You remind me of, like, what's his name? Bruce Lee. Be the water. Remember when he was on that talk show? Talking about becoming the water. Eric Anthony says, that's awesome. And no, I got to check this episode out. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. It's really like to avail all of ourselves of the knowledge that's out there and to understand that it's out there is so empowering, guys. Like, I cannot recommend this enough to just understand there are technologies out there that can help the body to heal. And when we understand that, we can't be controlled because people can't use fear to control us, because we know that, like, there's not one way to get to Las Vegas, right? You can take a bus, you can take a plane, you can take a helicopter, you can take a train, you can walk, you can ride a bike. I mean, there's infinite amounts of ways to get somewhere. But they want to tell you the only way to get from here to Las Vegas or from here to New York is to drive a car. But they're not going to tell you that there's a plane, there's a train, there's subways, you know, if you're traveling within the place in a city. There's all kinds of ways to get from point A to point B. But if you don't know that, then you're going to realize and you're going to succumb to the fear tactics that they want to try to get you in on. And so, just understanding what's out there and bringing you the cutting edge research and people doing research on, you know, not just devices like Rife machines and biophoton analyzers and scalar devices and frequency devices and things like that, hyperbaric oxygen. But there's also specific dietary protocols that you can follow too. And when you're putting all this stuff together on top of like spiritual, emotional stuff as well, there are so many different ways that you can use all of these things to your benefit. Like David Wolf says, you know, stack the odds in your favor. So you stack all the odds in your favor and you combine it with spiritual, emotional, physical, and you forgiveness and all this kind of stuff that you work together on. And you can really increase your chances of not just healing, but actually accomplishing whatever the health challenge you're dealing with is trying to teach you, because that's really the core of it, right? So that's really important. Brown Box says, when is the next Q&A with Dr. Bergman? Brown Box, do you mean for the Extreme Health Academy? Because if that's the case, we just did one about a half hour ago. That's why I'm here on a Sunday. But are you talking about the next show, maybe on Extreme Health Radio? Let me know what you mean by the next Q&A. I think you probably mean the Academy. So for those who don't know, every twice a month we do a Q&A with Dr. Bergman in the Academy and get his take on things, answering everybody's questions. And then we twice a month, myself, Michael Bergman, his son, and my wife Kate do a members hangout inside the Academy where we answer questions as well. So we all bring a different, unique perspective to health and healing. You know, Dr. Bergman's son, Michael Bergman, is a wealth of information, and he knows a bunch of different stuff that I don't know, and I know a bunch of stuff he doesn't know. And Kate brings her perspective as well. So it's really a cool place to get all the different resources for healing. So we do that almost every week on Sundays. So. Oh, cool. Ray Flores says, I had to call Blue Shield's customer service because initially the combined 20% didn't work. They fixed it on their end and it shipped out Friday. Cool. Okay, cool. Brown Box says, I can't get the videos to come up in the Academy. Okay. I wonder why that is. I'm wondering what you're using to access. Are you trying to watch the live sessions we do with Dr. Bergman, or just any of the videos in general? Let me know because we've got to get that fixed for you. So a lot of interesting stuff, guys. So much stuff. So there's been a lot of talk lately about measles and cancer and measles and MMR and all this kind of stuff. So let me bring some things up, some research that I've come across, and one of them is from PubMed. So there's a lot of scares. There's a lot of people scaring us about measles and mumps and rubella. And what they're not going to tell you is that there's a direct correlation between measles and getting these childhood diseases and catastrophic, degenerative, chronic diseases later on in life. And this is specifically what we talked about with, what's his name, Dr. Thomas Cowan. And he recently wrote a book all about this. And he looked at vaccines as something that prevents a child from going through one of the most beneficial and helpful health challenges in their entire life. Because when a child goes through mumps, measles, chickenpox, rubella, things like that early on in life, what happens is that their bodies start building antibodies, and their bodies start building and going through an immune system strengthening process when they go through these things. But in our culture, we want to run away from these things. And so there's some, interesting things to share with you here, and I have this here. So they call this febrile infections in childhood diseases, FICDs, and they say here that's associated with a lower cancer risk in adulthood. A Swiss study found that adults are significantly protected against non-breast cancers, genital, prostate, gastrointestinal, skin, lung, ear, nose, and throat, and others if they contracted measles. The odds ratio was less than 0.45%, rubella 0.38%, chickenpox 0.62% earlier on in life. Chickenpox reduced rates of brain cancer in adulthood. Right? Crazy, right? Mumps reduced the rates of ovarian cancer. Measles reduced the rates of lymphomas. So on the contrary, it says here, both the MMR, mumps, measles, rubella, and chickenpox vaccines contain human DNA, which has been linked to childhood cancers like leukemia, lymphoma, autoimmune diseases, gender identity confusion. Wow, I didn't know that. So the human DNA inside these vaccines causes gender identity confusion. Isn't that interesting? Wow, a lot of that going on today, right? A lot of people confused about what a man should be, what a woman should be, and breaking down the differences between the two. Really fascinating, right? So let me bring up that study here so you guys can take a look. So it's really important if you have a child. We have 7-month-old twin boys. It's really important. The history, this is from Baylor College of Medicine. History of chickenpox may reduce risk of brain cancer later on in life. Let me bring this up for you guys can take a look at this thing. So your doctor doesn't want to tell you this stuff, guys. They just don't, because if you can take care of your body, you basically eliminate the need for their services. So they don't want to price themselves out of a job, do they? They want to make sure that you see them when you're 20, 30, 40 and get all the testing done and get all the stuff in. And the real problem with diseases, in my opinion, comes from believing that there's such a thing as a diagnosis. And when you become diagnosed with something, a hypnotic spell comes over you and takes control of you, takes control of your psyche, takes control of your subconscious mind when you believe something like a diagnosis. It's a powerful thing. It's been embedded into our culture through media. But it says here, the history of chickenpox may reduce the risk of brain cancer later on in life. The chickenpox is one of those pesky illnesses that affects kids and pains their parents, but it may offer some positive health benefits later on in life, experts believe. A reduced risk for developing gliomas. In one of the largest studies to date, an international consortium led by researchers in the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor College of Medicine reported an inverse relationship between a history of chickenpox and gliomas, a type of brain cancer, meaning that children who have had the chickenpox may be less likely to develop brain cancer. That's all right there. And you can click on these studies, go do a little research. These are studies that your doctor simply does not know about. And shame on him if he doesn't know about these studies. But here's the thing. I think it's a real problem for doctors to not know about these studies. But if a doctor was a real doctor and they were on the cutting edge and really looking to help you, they might be able to see 1, maybe 2 patients a day. Because all the other time that they would need to do research and to look into these studies. But because, first of all, insurance companies won't allow for that. Second of all, in order for them to pay their staff, to pay their rent on their building, to pay for their second and third homes, to pay for their 4 cars, to pay their college debt that they use to go through college, in order to pay all of their credit card debt and student loans and pay for their children, maybe pay alimony, to pay their business debts. They have to see at least 15, 20, 30, 40 patients a day in order to keep that engine running. So if they're going to see all those patients per day, you know they're not going to be able to help you because they're not staying on the cutting edge. So it's really important, guys. I wouldn't recommend. We got a lot of people inside of our academy asking, like, how do they change the mind of their doctor, or how do I present information to my doctor that's going to help change their mind? And it's really important, guys, like it says in the Bible, to don't cast your pearls before swine. Not saying your doctor's swine, but what I'm saying is that it's not your job to try to change anybody's mind when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's just simply not your job. If you have a spouse, a loved one, a doctor, it's not your job to take care of them and to make sure they see the world the way you see it. It's like with me. All the time I get people. Recently, there's my mom wanted me to help someone in her church. Actually, this happened a couple years ago, and then it happened again recently. Wanted me to help someone in their church, and so she gave me the email address and the phone number, and I called, and I wrote, and I did all this research. I sent a bunch of information, putting everything together for this person, and never heard back. Never heard back. So I thought, what a waste of time, But then I thought about it, and I thought, that's not a waste of time, because I can put all that onto our website, which I did at extremehealthradio.com/126 when it comes to cancer. So it was good. It was used for good, but it wasn't a total waste of time. But it's just happened again recently, where my mom told me about someone from their church who was, diagnosed, tried everything, and nothing was working. And so she wanted me to reach out to the person. And so having gone through that first experience a couple years ago, I said, nope, can't do it. Not going to do it. Not going to cast my pearls before swine. I said, Mom, if you want that person, if they're really looking for alternative methods, then have them contact me. Give them my email address, justin@extremehealthradio.com. And if that person is willing to do the research and wants my help, I'm more than willing to help that person. So she told me next Sunday she gave him my contact information, and I haven't heard back from him since. So it's not my job to help people that don't want to be helped, right? It's not your job to help. And it's not your job to help people who want to be helped. It's your job to help yourself and let that be infectious to other people. And to get out of this idea that we need to save everybody. This is really not about that. It's about growing and understanding. It's about growing as a person and fully expressing who you are. And once we get out of the mindset of trying to save everybody, we're going to actually have some energy, some ATP production from our mitochondria to be able to actually heal ourselves. So that's one of the major issues with health and healing today. So there's this idea that measles is a bad thing, but it actually helps. Story here from the Telegraph. Interesting. A massive injection of the measles virus. Let me see if you guys... Yeah, massive injection of the measles virus received by a 50-year-old woman in the United States shrank her tumors and eventually made them disappear. The trial at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, was carried out by Stacy Erholtz, Erholtz, who was declared free of the disease. She was one of the 2 patients to participate in the trial, which did not prove successful with the other volunteer. The next step will be a similar trial involving a larger group of patients, which is expected to take place in September. Ms. Holtz of Pequot, Pequot Lakes, Minnesota, has for years suffered from myeloma, a blood cancer that affects bone marrow. In simple terms, the measles virus, this is from CNN, makes cancer cells join together and explode. Excuse me. But I thought we don't have a cure for cancer. I thought we don't. Haven't we been working since 1971, since Richard Nixon declared the war on cancer? But we won't talk too much about that. In simple terms, it says here, the measles virus makes cancer cells join together and explode. Mayo Clinic researcher Dr. Angela Dispenzirari explains. There's also some evidence to suggest, she says, that the virus is stimulating to the patient's immune system, helping it recognize any recurring cancer cells and, quote, mopping that up. Pretty fascinating, right? Pretty interesting. Yeah, pretty fascinating. Okay, so what are you guys saying in the chat room here? There are 5 different, the Ask Mama channel says, there are 5 different vaccines that contain human protein and DNA. VaxCalc produces a customized ingredient report based on your vaccine choices that alerts you to the presence of human protein DNA in any vaccine that you may be considering. Wow, is that a website? Sorry, I had to do that. Doing a long show, doing a lot of talking, sometimes you need to drink a little bit of water, right? VaxCalc, I'm going to look that up. That sounds like it could be a website. VaxCalc, vaxcalc.org. This is interesting. Vaccine ingredients. Let me bring this up on the website if you guys want to take a look. Vaccine ingredients calculator. What is VaxCalc? Informed vaccination decision making. It's a research tool that puts the power of information into your hands to help you make the best vaccination decisions for yourself and your children. I can't say that. Can you say that quickly? VaxCalc computes ingredient exposures from multiple vaccines to be received at a single office visit or for your entire vaccination history, covering 82 ingredients contained in the vaccines recommended by the CDC. Interesting. Okay. Well, this is a cool resource. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. By the way, guys, according to our good friend of the show, Dr. Richard Massey, there's never been a condition in which ultraviolet blood irradiation and high-dose IV vitamin C has not turned around the same exact thing that a vaccine is meant to do. So just know that. It's not like if you are going to not vaccinate your children, you don't have any resources. Ultraviolet blood irradiation, ozone therapy, something else you can consider. They do DMSO in IVs now. You can look into that. High dose vitamin C. So just because you don't vaccinate doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing things that are proactive and or preventative as well. One cell line was developed in September of '66 from lung tissue taken from a 14-week fetus aborted for psychiatric reasons from a 27-year-old physically healthy woman. Another was derived from the lung tissue of a 3-month-old aborted human female fetus. Whoa. That is absolutely crazy. Brown Box says, going back to the videos inside of our Extreme Health Academy, live videos just have an error message and no replays for January will play. Also, do not receive the notifications for live now videos. Okay, so Brown Box, curious if you are on our email list for the Academy, because we always let people know when we're going to be going live, at least a few days before. And if you could email me, could you email me like a screenshot maybe of what's going on? And I might be able to help you out with that. Maybe you're using a browser that's not supported or a phone or something like that. So email me and I might be able to help you out. Possibly do some screenshots as well so I know what's going on your end. Eric says, did you guys hear about Israel saying they will have a cure for cancer in less than a year? What a bunch of bull. Yeah, I know. They say that a lot, right? You got to keep kicking the can down the road and making people believe that they're close to a cure, right? So it's really important to not get caught up in that stuff, guys, because they're not. There's no money in curing cancer. The average cancer patient is worth almost $1 million. And I think just in the United States, there's 27,000 people diagnosed per day from cancer. Now, as of 2010, I think, more doctors are living off of cancer than there are people being diagnosed with it. It is $1 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars a year. There's no way there's ever going to be a cure for cancer. It's just there's too much money in it. There's just too much money in it. You're considering the fact that it's around $800,000 now each patient is worth, from testing to insurance reimbursements to chemotherapy to surgeries to radiation, the entire lifetime of the patient. It's close to $1 million now for every person. And now it's a financial just boom for these people, because it used to be 1 out of every 3 women were diagnosed at some point in their life, and 1 out of every 2 men. But now, if you're born after 1960, which I was born in 1975. So now they're saying 1 and 2 across the board. So that means 50% of the population, not you guys, because you guys are incredible, and you guys take proactive approach to your health. But 50% of the population is now going to be paying about $800,000 at some point in their life. And so what I surmise and what I think is going on with all of this stuff, because we get a lot of emails like, what's actually going on, do you think? And so what I think is going on is they're purposefully vaccinating children and the vaccines are doing a number of different things. So what they're doing is they're preventing a child's immune system from fully functioning and working properly. That's having a connection between chronic degenerative diseases later on in life. So the less children that get vaccines, the less chance they get chronic diseases. So less chance of getting cancer. So you have more children, and doctors being reimbursed for high vaccine rates in their offices, so they get kickbacks, right? You have more children being vaccinated. That means you have more incidence of cancer and other diseases later on in life, right? So they're eventually, if the vaccines don't cause damage, they're going to cause, at the very least, other health conditions, leaky gut digestive disorders, all kinds of other issues all throughout life. And then, hopefully, speaking from a pharmaceutical perspective, they'll get diagnosed with cancer later on in life, and then we make $1 million off that person, right? So there's a lot going on with vaccines, and that's why it's really important for them to, now they're moving into adult vaccinations. So they're looking at a highly saturated culture of children now that are getting all the vaccines that they're trying to get them on, but now what they're trying to do is get the adults. So now they're going to tie that to birth certificates, they're going to tie it to driver's licenses, passports, things like that, to prevent adults from being able to live their life without being vaccinated. Now, a lot of jobs, you have to get vaccinated to get a job. So it's a purposeful thing, in my opinion. I think they're really trying to make us sick, and they're doing a good job, right? You live a default life like the average American, average Western person lives, you're going to get sick. There's just no doubt about it. But if you take the steps that we talk about on our show, cleansing, detox, doing things like hyperbaric oxygen, ultraviolet blood irradiation, ozone therapy, coffee enemas, you start detoxing with things like the saunas that we have in our store, the rebounders, there's Rife machines, there's using red light therapy. We have the Juve device. You start using all these things and start forgiving others and living a life that you're connected to, and you'll live a long time without being affected by this kind of stuff. So it's really fascinating, and then on top of it, you see what's going on with the 5G and how that's causing massive amounts of calcium. According to Martin Pall, over 1,000 times the amount of calcium is opening up the calcium ion channels inside the cell, allowing all that calcium to flood the cell. And he's looking at over 150 different disease models now happening as a result of all this calcium flooding the inside of the cell. Fascinating guy, right? This is all because of 5G. So it's a massive assault to our health, guys. It really is. And, we really have to do more unique things to improve our health. And it's sucky and it stinks because I don't want to have to do my rebounder. I do my rebounder every day for about 20, 30 minutes. I don't want to have to do a sauna. Like last night I was in my sauna at 10:30 at night because I had to get it done. It's one of those things where if I have the time to do it, even if it's late at night, I do it. So I don't want to have to do all these things. I really don't. But if we're going to live and we want to live a long time, then we have to be able to do, have to look into doing these things just to get creative. So Brown Box wants to know my email. It's Justin, Justin, at extremehealthradio.com. And if I can't help you, I can email our support people, and they might be able to help you too. Want to make sure, Brown Box, you get into the academy and start utilizing it. Can you log in okay, I hope you can log in. Rain Country, good to see you here. Wow, I wonder how many of those diagnoses are even real. That's one of the things that I have always questioned. You know that? I've always questioned whether or not someone's actually diagnosed because I've heard too many stories. There's a story that we shared on one of our Free For All Friday shows, I think about 6 months ago, where a doctor was being compensated by insurance companies for falsely diagnosing people. And I think he got 40 years to life in prison. And this was a court case that happened, I think about a year ago. And he was falsely diagnosing people with cancer who never had cancer, so that he would be reimbursed from the insurance companies, sending these people to chemotherapy, to radiation, and who were completely healthy, never had cancer. And so I wonder, you just don't know, right? You just don't know. If I'm going to go to somewhere and they want to actually diagnose this, like I need actual proof, man. I'm not going to just, I need multiple doctors saying the same thing who don't know that I'm getting second, third, fourth opinions. But at the same time, I'm probably not even going to go see those kind of people because there's something really energetically that happens that disables our immune system when we believe a diagnosis. And so I'm a big fan myself, I can't tell you what you to do, of being your own doctor, listening to your body, all that stuff, right? Know your rights, says Rain Country, especially with states trying to pass bills to force vaccines on everybody. It is true. Poison in the air from all the spraying, GMO foods, Roundup food, technology, 5G, blue lights. Yeah, it's interesting. Ask Mama, the Ask Mama channel. We had Stephanie Seneff on the show a while back, and she made an interesting point, which I thought was fascinating. Is that she was talking about glyphosates, and I was just saying, is there any way to get away from glyphosates? And basically, she said no, because what's happening is that 10% of fuel comes from corn, from ethanol, I think, from corn, and 100% of corn, if it's not organic, is sprayed with GMO glyphosate. So that glyphosate gets into the fuel, gets into the car. Now all of that exhaust that you're breathing just by living near a freeway. Research tire dust toxifications, and you'll find some fascinating articles about that. And so this stuff is in the air. It's in the rainwater. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Blue light, yeah. Blue light is really damaging, guys. This is why I'm wearing, you see I'm wearing a thyroid protector right now, and my hat and my orange glasses. Really important to block this stuff. Eric says, Eric, by the way, thank you for your super chat last week. That was awesome. I really appreciate that. That was really, really cool. Super chat is a thing where you can donate $1 or $2 or whatever you see fit in the live YouTube chat room. So I appreciate that. That was really cool. You say, when my dad was diagnosed, it hit him very hard, and he pretty much gave up on life right after that. His health went down so fast, it was hard and sad to see. Eric, I think that was just recently, right? I think on our last show you said your dad just passed. What was he diagnosed with, do you know? Man, I find it very difficult to listen to any doctor that does not believe the body is intelligent. Yep. Urine Animal says, glyphosate global atmospheric gas chamber holocaust. You know what's interesting, Urine Animal? When that chat came in, when that comment came in on YouTube, it said it was spam. And I'm thinking it's probably because you used the word gas chamber and holocaust. It's interesting the how much they're actually censoring things these days, isn't it? So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Let me see if there's anything else. The H word. I want to share with you guys some things that have come up in my consciousness lately. One other thing I wanted to share with you guys too, with regards to measles. Let me bring this up on the show. You guys can see it. Measles virus for cancer therapy on PubMed. Measles virus, this is PubMed now, offers an ideal platform from which to build a new generation of safe, effective oncolytic viruses. Occasional spontaneous tumor regressions have occurred during natural measles infections, but common tumors do not express SLAM, the wild type of MV receptor, and are therefore not susceptible to the virus. This is interesting, right? Why attenuated measles viruses are attractive oncolytic agents. Tumor targeting through CD46 density discrimination. So it's really fascinating what's going on with the powers that be that want to target these things like measles, mumps, rubella, and prevent children from going through this, because do they know that there's a correlation between cancer and these types of things? You know, it's really fascinating. So curious what your thoughts are on that, guys, in the chat room. Really fascinating. So like we said before in the chat room, you guys were saying that, you know, this stuff is coming at us from a multitude of different areas. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I used to live on macaroni and cheese. And now, according to our good buddy Mike Adams over at Natural News, it says here, 97% of tested mac and cheese products found to contain chemicals used in plastics, rubber coatings, adhesives, sealants, and printing inks. That sounds fun, doesn't it? Phthalates are everywhere. They can be found in plastic food containers, coatings, inks, products, household products. They act as binding agents and make plastics softer and more flexible. But new studies on the dangerous impacts of phthalates on our health seem to come out each week. Given their hormone or endocrine disrupting effects, phthalate exposure has been linked to a host of health conditions, making their widespread use a serious public health concern. Pregnant women and children especially are at heightened risk. In 2014, 12 billion pounds of these chemicals were produced by the global chemistry industry. Though phthalates are not intentionally added to food, they can migrate into food products during processing, packaging, and preparation. Higher levels of phthalates tend to be found in highly processed or fatty foods. Though Europe banned the use of most phthalates in plastics that come in contact with fatty foods, including dairy products, these chemicals are still leaching into our food on a daily basis in the United States. Crazy. Based on an outdated safety data and policy, the U.S. Food and FDA still allows for the use of DEHP and 27 other phthalates in food contact materials. Unreal, guys. This is the same FDA that tells you to go see your doctor and to outsource your health to other people. It's crazy, guys. I'm telling you guys, it is of utmost importance to take control of your own health and stop outsourcing how you feel and the level of health you experience to some guy in a white lab coat. It's not going to help you. He's going to try to extract money from you. That's what he's going to try to do. Here's something from Erin Elizabeth at HealthNet News. This is from CNN Health. Interesting, right? Going back to measles. Used to put women's cancer into remission. Crazy, guys. Crazy, crazy. She says here, be sure to... Okay, so... Yes, cancer is in remission, and some headline news even say it cures cancer. Isn't it so cool when CNN, CBS, the front of the Washington Post, and Business Insider all report that the measles virus can kill cancer and has put children and adults into remission and, quote, cure the cancer? She says here, I guess people missed this a few years ago. Crazy, right? This is the name of the writer, Jacque Wilson. CNN, May 18th, 2014. Measles virus used to put women's cancer into remission. So it's simply they just don't want to tell you this stuff, you know? They just don't want to tell you this stuff. So I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is a weird story. This is crazy. I just learned about this recently. This is nuts, guys. What kind of world are we moving into where there's now a smart diaper to tell parents when they need to change their baby? This is from moms.com. There's a smart diaper because it insinuates, right, that we're stupid. There's a little sensor right on the baby's genitals that tell you if your baby needs to be changed. If having to perform the sniff test to figure out whether or not it's time to change your baby's diaper is not something you enjoy, this new invention by Korean startup company Monit, M-O-N-I-T, may be just the thing you're looking for. The company unveiled their new smart diaper at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas recently, and it just may be a game changer for parents everywhere. My goodness. How crazy is that? Radiating your child's genitals, boy or girl, with high-frequency radiation like that. It gives an instant notification to the parent's mobile cell phone so that they can understand when is best time for changing the diaper, CEO Park says. Parents can understand baby status in the meantime, baby surroundings, so that they can raise their babies with strategy, not just by instinct or feeling. Isn't that interesting? Parents can understand a baby's status in the meantime, baby's surroundings, so that they can raise their babies with strategy, not just by instinct or feeling. Isn't that fascinating? See, we are systematically being disconnected from our own feelings and our instincts. And we're being taught, all of us, to outsource our feelings, our gut instincts, our premonitions, our inclinations. We're being taught to put all of that aside and rely on technology to tell us these things. This is really bad, guys. So whatever you do, don't put a smart diaper on your baby. I mean, it's crazy. There's apps now that you can put on your shoulder and on your, I think on the outside of your, or behind your ear, that will tell you if you, and your lower back, I think, that will tell you if you're leaning forward, watching, or spending too much screen time on your smartphone. So these are apps that tell you if you're out of posture, right? So rather than being in touch with your body, rather than actually not having a smartphone or utilizing it in a way that's damaging to your health, just continue to do that, but get an app that will beam all this radiation all over your body so that it can tell you if you're not in the right posture. I mean, I don't know what's happening to our culture, but somehow we're losing the ability to connect with ourselves. And it's really bizarre to watch people walking down the street interacting with a device like a phone rather than actually communicating to each other. It's really bizarre. Really bizarre. So, what else have we got here? Beck wants to know, I get it that you need to use your cell phone, keep it away from you. However, I use my phone most of the time to listen to your podcast, along with a lot of other people on YouTube. I'm either outside or away from my home, and honestly, I would miss so many wonderful shows if it weren't for my phone. I actually was listening to your live radio show at my grandson's ball game. I ran the earbud cord up through my shirt and nobody noticed. Isn't that pathetic? I've wrapped it in aluminum foil while having it in my pocket, but then I have to unwrap it to type something. Intelligent? Give me some ideas on other things I can do. I know there are phone cases on the market. Not sure which ones are the best. Also, the little devices you can put on your phone, better earbuds are on my list of things to get. If a phone starts on fire, it has to be a bad thing, and I cannot seem to be smart enough to give it up yet. I know it sounds like I am a fry short of a Happy Meal, but I can't lie. I want it all. Thanks, guys. You're the best. All right, guys, so here's some ideas about cell phones and how to mitigate the damaging effects of them. First of all, the first thing is distance. You want to make sure that you limit the amount of distance you use. So we have a little pop phone that you can buy on Amazon. It's like a little phone. It's like an old school phone from the 80s that you could use and plug it in your phone and use that instead of Bluetooth. That's one thing. The other thing is turning off the 4 bidirectional wireless antennas that are in your phone. Typically with most iPhones, there's 4 of them that you need to disable all of those when you're not using it. That's best. The third thing you'd want to do with your phone is make sure that you change the backdrop so it's no longer emitting blue light as the default setting. You can change this on iPhones with going into the settings, and I've shared that on our Instagram if you guys want to go check out our Instagram. So make sure you change that so that you can make sure that it's using orange instead of blue, so that won't screw up your mitochondria. What else can you do? If you can't get to those settings, or maybe you have an Android, what you could do is go to lowbluelights.com and grab one of their filters and put that over your phone, and then use blue blocking glasses every time you look at your phone. The average person looks at their phone over 150 times a day, and the average American has 6 to 7 bidirectional wireless devices that they own. So there's a lot of radiation being happening. You could get something like the Blue Shield devices, which I have in our store. Those are available. You can use those. You can get a iPhone cover. We like the ones from Defender Shield. Those are also available in our store. You can get those little stickers too. I don't really know about those, but I'd get it all. Get those little stickers, put those on the back of your phone, get a Defender Shield, wrap your phone in that. If you want to go even further, you can buy now pants or shorts that have silver pockets in them. So what you might want to do is, like, for example, if you want to download all your information onto your phone, maybe a podcast or something like that, or a video, and turn off all 4 wireless antennas in there, have it in the Defender Shield, put it in your silver lined pocket, and then it might be somewhat close to being able to be used by you. So those are some ideas, Beck. I hope that helps. Okay, I'm in a bad financial situation and wanted to know your thoughts on the cheapest possible diet I can buy while still remaining healthy, even if it's the same foods frequently. Well, gosh, how do you stay on a healthy diet? Okay, well, I mean, for what you might want to figure out is, food combining, starting with that, not mixing carbs and proteins. Start there. That way, whatever food you do eat is not going to be screwing up your digestive acids. Other thing you might want to do, which doesn't really pertain to diet specifically, but is eating foods at the right time. So look at the work of Adam Bergstrom and realize that, for example, foods that receive the sun in the morning are best to be eaten like fruits. Because if you look at the angle in which the sunlight, the biophotons, hit that food, it's best to be eaten in the morning because they're higher up on the canopy. And then as the sun rises, You can start to eat food lower down, closer to the earth. And then once the sun is set, you might want to consider eating foods that exist below the surface of the earth, like root vegetables, like fish, things like that. So eating food at the right time is really important as well. So some things to consider there. As far as finding the right diet, that's individual, and that's going to change for everybody. It's even going to change for you at different times of your life. So I'd highly recommend figuring out what foods do well with you. So let's look in and check out the chat room. What are you guys talking about there? Ooh, a lot of people chit-chatting away. This is cool. This is awesome. Rain country. Wow, you guys are really... Tina says the smart diaper is also probably a tracking device. That's probably true. One more device so that your parents can pay less attention to their babies, freeing up more phone time. Wow, that's true, right? I find it interesting that the CEO of that company wants to disconnect you from your own intuition and let yourself rely on them. That's creepy, isn't it? That's so creepy. I don't know what it is, man. Eric, going back to your dad, it says they said it was cancer. I have a weird story that I would like to share with you, Justin. Not today, but sometime soon. Yeah, interesting. Wow. Man, oh, man. Yeah, just let me know, Eric, if you want to send me an email. Let me know. I'd love to learn more. You're an Animal says, PubMed is an amazing resource. Sometimes I take so many notes, I had to set up a home server just to organize things. Wow. Rain Country says, oh, brother, are people that wimpy? They cannot simply use their nose, right? I mean, what's the deal? I don't know, man. It's all about money. It's all about money and control. They want to overtake your control and usurp your ability as a parent to be connected to your child. And like Mystic Witch said, so that you can be more freed up to look at your phone, which further lowers dopamine levels and screws up your mitochondrial function. You're an Animal says, I actually had someone consult with me on how to build and market a smart diaper just 8 months ago. I told him no. Wow. That's crazy, right? Crazy, crazy, crazy. This world is heading into a hell world if people don't cut the crud out of their minds. Babies are just now an app. That's true. That is true. When quality's shining example speaks volumes, quantity's flash in the pan turns a deaf ear. Chalk can't please cheese. That was interesting from Nikki. I always carried my phone in my right front pocket. Now I have right hip issues. When I asked if the phone could be part of the cause, he just laughed. Wish I knew better. Wow. If someone I tried some blue blocking glasses as I have to stare at a computer a lot for video editing and such. They did not work well for me. I would like to try another brand, Rain Country says. Hey, Rain Country, you know what's interesting too, because I do a lot of work with Photoshop as well. One sec, I got to take a quick water break here. When you're doing a lot of shows, you have to drink a lot of water. Yeah, so as far as the blue blocking glasses, you could use a program like Iris, which is what I use. That will allow you control over how much blue light you can get on. That's available in our store. I combine that with blue blocking glasses, but it's really important. If you want to keep good health, you have to block blue light. There's just no way around it. So I would recommend figuring out some solutions that you can do to do your work, but also block blue light. You're an Animal says, any OLED-based screen has an exceptional ability to modify the light output since each pixel is a tiny LED, unlike reflective displays that only have one backlit that is white-blue. Yeah, it's really important, guys, to make sure to block blue light. Dr. William Kelly developed a metabolic typing protocol. It helps you deduce what your metabolic processes currently need. Yeah, we did a whole show on metabolic typing, with Dr. It's Meridian Grace, but I think it's Paul Walcott is who she bases her work off of. But yeah, metabolic typing is really key when it comes to understanding which foods are good for you. Christine Garcia, how do you disable the 4 bidirectional wireless antennas? Okay, so what you want to do is on your iPhone, go to settings, and then go to, let me see. I don't have a phone on mine. Mine's just, I use it for Instagram, and I just use it for Instagram. So you can go to your settings, and then there's airplane mode, there's Wi-Fi, there's Bluetooth, and then there's cellular. So you want to disable all of those when you're not on them. And if you can see, like, check this out. Okay, so I'll put it on blue. So you can probably see right now that the phone is blue, right? And then if I switch it, I can just do 4 taps or 3 taps. Whoops. Let me do 3 taps and do color filters and watch it change to orange. So there's things you can do to mitigate the effects of blue lit screens. Okay, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up because this was sort of an impromptu show that I wasn't really planning on doing. So it was just sort of, I'm here to hang out and wanted to hang out with you guys and see what you guys are doing on Super Bowl Sunday here in the United States. Speaking of, really quickly before I cut out of here, here's a article here. Blue light is causing the human eye to attack itself. This is from sciencealert.com. Excessive exposure to blue light isn't great for our eyes, contributing to a slow loss of vision over the course of a lifetime. So if you got anybody in your life with macular degeneration, wet or dry, glaucoma, myopia, cataracts, these things are caused by blue light, blindness. Scientists from the University of Toledo in the U.S. now understand precisely how this toxic effect works, which could be good news for anybody at risk of degenerative eye conditions. So it says here, for the rest of us, it's just one more reason to give serious thought to limiting our exposure to the cool glow of a screen long after the sun goes down. Quote, it's no secret that blue light harms our vision by damaging the eye's retina. Our experience explains how this happens, and we hope this leads to therapies that slow macular degeneration, such as a new kind of eye drop. See, guys, articles like this drive me crazy because they just insinuate that you're going to continue doing the thing that's causing you to get the disease, namely macular degeneration. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll make an eye drop that we can sell to you instead of just limiting your exposure. It's crazy. So this kind of stuff is everywhere. This whole thing with blue light, it's people are slowly but surely waking up to the fact that blue light not just is affecting our eyes. They want to make you think that it's just affecting our eyes, but it's affecting your nervous system. It's affecting your mitochondrial health, your body's ability to replicate cells properly, your body's ability to allow mitochondrial function to produce ATP, which allows for your body to have enough energy to prevent disease. And so this is a real issue, real issue with the world today. And, if you look at the invention of electricity and disease rates from 1879 to today, you're going to see that those lines are run parallel to each other, just increasing exponentially. So with electricity and non-native EMF comes disease. It's just the way it works. And so if you're living in a house that has electricity in it, you're contributing to disease. So you have to be able to mitigate that stuff. And so it's really important if we're going to live these modern lives to make sure that we do the best we can to mitigate as much of this damage as possible. And so a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff. So really quickly, guys, before I take off, I wanted to tell you guys about what's going on with our iTunes channel. So with our iTunes, we have shows right now 7 days a week. So if you're subscribed on iTunes, you'll get 7 shows every week, and about 2 to 3 days a week, or anywhere from 1 to 3 days a week, we're releasing brand new shows. But then on the other days of the week, we're releasing our best of older content. So head over to iTunes if you can. There's a link in our Instagram profile if you guys want to check that out. And leave us a rating and a review. And by doing that, you'll get access to shows every day. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Like today, we released a show that we did with Jennifer Daniels like 4 years ago. That was an amazing show we did on turpentine. And that's available if you listen on iTunes. But that's why we're re-releasing those older archived sort of best of episodes. So make sure to do that, and that way you can get access to all those shows. And not all of them are going to be relevant to you, right? So, but every day there's going to be new shows. So some of them are. So I really encourage you to subscribe to our iTunes. That way you know what your options are out there. Okay, Rain Country says, glad I was able to make it in. I usually miss you guys when you are on live. I know, I haven't seen you, your name here. Rain Country, this is cool. Yeah, so, I mean, this is a special show we're doing on Sunday, sort of competing with the Super Bowl. So most people are watching the old Super Bowl. So it's, just one of those things. I felt compelled to do it. Wanted to connect with you guys, answer any questions, and let you know what's going on with the shows and the Academy and all that good stuff. So you say this was an excellent episode. I even linked to it from my own videos recently. Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, guys, thanks for sharing our shows. It really helps us tremendously. We're trying to get the word out, trying to interview more people, trying to help more people. And like I said before, not all the shows are going to be relevant to you. Not all the shows are going to be interesting to you. But by doing a show every single day, I think it's really going to let you in on some of the shows that you probably missed since we've been doing since 2012. So subscribe to our iTunes, and, it would help us a lot if you left us a rating and you reviewed us. That helps us tremendously. So that way you just at least know what your options are when it comes to healing. Okay, Ray says, Justin, how do you disable the 4 antennas on the iPhone? Well, I don't know. I think you go to let me go on this thing here. Just go to settings, and then you just turn off airplane mode, or you turn it on. Right? Is that right? Yeah, you turn it on. Yeah, and then you turn off the Wi-Fi, you turn off the Bluetooth, and you turn off the cellular. You just go into each one of those settings and turn each one of those things off. Zirin was on our show recently. He's the guy I was talking about before with Lyme disease. And he was saying, it's on our YouTube channel, to just understand that this thing here, this phone, is a weapon. It's designed to be a weapon. It harms your health. And they say that in the paperwork for this thing. It destroys our health, not just from the color that it produces, which is typically blue, which screws up our mitochondria, but from the radiation it receives and sends out. And this is really damaging to our health. So if you're going to use one of these things, just understand how to use it, when to use it, and how to mitigate all the stuff from it. You're an Animal says, also look for Wi-Fi roaming. Disable that since it can be automatically enabled. Yeah. Turn off all that stuff, guys. Really do your best to turn all that stuff off. I'm really impressed with you guys, not watching the Super Bowl. Man, that's awesome. You guys are cream of the crop here on a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. Cream of the crop here, not watching the Super Bowl. But I'd have to think that most people that are watching and listen to our show aren't really big Super Bowl people anyway. But yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to head on out. I'm going to go eat some dinner, spend some time with Kate. She just got back from a massage. It's the first massage she's had in months and months and months. So I'm really happy that she's, getting some self-care in. It's really challenging to do when you have 7-month-old twins to make sure you get that self-care time in, And yeah, so if there's any other final questions that you guys have, I'd love to answer them. You're an Animal says, have a great day all. Thanks. Take care, Justin. You know what's interesting, You're an Animal? You say you don't like sports rituals. It's interesting, isn't it, that with sporting events that they do, the national anthem, you ever find that to be interesting? Like, why do they tie politics and this idea of a statism and this idea of government into sports? Isn't that weird? I just find it very odd. National anthems at sporting events. I've never been able to figure that out. Very bizarre. Anyway, thank you, Ray. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. This show is probably going to go on the iTunes feed in a couple months. But you guys are amazing. So, again, thank you all for being here. Don't forget to check out our show tomorrow. Let's see, who do we got tomorrow? Mr. Zirin. Yeah, we'll talk part 2 of his show on Lyme disease. He's a cool guy. He's a musician. He has a really cool cover band and they cover U2 songs, and he plays Bono. It's really cool. So he's a young guy, Lyme disease, but really into health, got a lot to say. So he's cool. Gerald Smith on Wednesday, using energetic medicine, reversing post-concussion symptoms. And then Frank Schallenberger on Friday about ozone and how to use ozone in your life. A lot of cool things going on. So make sure to subscribe. Love you guys all. You are amazing for being here on a Super Bowl thing. And if you guys want to take your health to new levels, make sure to join or at least look at the Extreme Health Academy. There's a link down below if you're watching this on a sort of a archive version. There's a link below to the Extreme Health Academy where you can get a free 14-day discount trial. So check that out, guys. And if you do sign up, come over and say hello in the chat room. Tag me, and I'll love to help you out and work with you personally with other people and to really take your health to new levels. So I'd really love to work with you. So if you guys want to improve your health, do that. Sign up to Extreme Health Academy. We didn't do any sponsors for today's show just because I wanted to chit chat, hang out with you guys and talk. So make sure the sponsors were our Bellicon Rebounder, the Relax Far Infrared Sauna, the blue blocking glasses, which are the glasses I'm wearing now. These are available in our store, as well as the Juve red light therapy device. So make sure to check those out in our store, and make sure to keep checking our store. We're going to be adding more products. This is how we keep the show free. We like supporting good people, doing good things, and supporting the show, keeping it free. So, you know, it takes energy and effort to produce these shows and to do all this stuff. So we stay alive and functioning through your support. So we appreciate it. Eric, thank you for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it. Ray, it's great to have you here as well. Nikki, Rain Country, all you guys are amazing. So we appreciate it. Thanks for sharing our show. Thanks for your being a patron. Thanks for your support, all that good stuff. If you like today's show, tag us on Instagram. We would love to connect with you on there as well. All right, guys, that's it for now. We'll see you tomorrow morning in a couple hours with Zirin Kenny. That'd be fun, and we'll see you on the next episode. And love you guys, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.